So I've said this before, I'll say it again, that walking in the Spirit is walking in a state of mind. And a person that is still in bondage to sin cannot walk in the Spirit. This is what Paul is describing in Titus chapter 3, verses 10 and 11, when he talks about a heretic, someone who is self-willed. That's the main definition of that Greek word, which heretic is the Greek word itself, is to choose. Someone who is self-willed, who continues to sin, being condemned of himself. And this comes back to faith. That's what Paul wrote Romans 14, 22 and 23. Blessed is the one who isn't condemned in that thing which he approves. And it's talking about to test by examination. He says, for whatsoever is not of faith is sin. And this is what he's getting at in Ephesians 5, that having no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reproving them, exposing them. For what exposes all things is the light. And this goes back to Adam and Eve. After they sinned, they hid themselves from the presence of God amongst the trees of the garden after they ate of the tree that God told them not to eat of. For in the day that you eat thereof, you shall die, and you shall surely die. The shame of their nakedness was exposed at that moment. Their eyes were opened to know the shame of their nakedness. Genesis 3:7. And when they heard the sound of the Lord God and walking in the cool of the day, it says that they hid themselves from God's presence amongst the trees of the garden. And God was calling out, Adam, where are you? And he knew where they were, but this was to demonstrate to us that man was lost. And Adam said, I heard the sound of you, and I was afraid because I was naked. And he said, well, who told you you were naked? Did you eat of the tree that I told you not to eat of? So now man had come into bondage to fear and condemnation, and he also had the knowledge of good and evil. He says, God said, now that man has become one of us to know good and evil, lest he also stretch forth his hand and eat of the tree of life and live forever, he drove the man out. He separated man